Call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is public input. You need to address the board on any item that is not on the agenda, excluding personnel items. Please come forward to the podium and state your name and concern. I don't think we have anyone here for public input, so then I'll move on to delegations. We've got Eric from Mitchell Hockey. Okay.
Hey everyone, I'm Eric Sabers. I'm the president of Mitchell Hockey. Basically, it's about 6 months ago I came here, introduced myself, said we had some exciting things going on, and we had some projects in mind, and basically we were coming here with our second project. Our first project actually was a little bit minor. We actually improved some of the electrical in our ticket booth and the sharpening room, so now we can run both skate sharpeners without blowing breakers. So we also painted the ticket booth, and we are actually adding shelving and some cabinets. So with that one off our plate, we now hit our second one. So this one has taken me all of 6 months to get ready. So basically, yeah, we have on the Innovative Systems rink, the scoreboards in there are original to the Toshiba rink from 29 years ago, from what I understand. So the controller that runs it is no longer available for refurbishment, repair from Daktronics. There is a company out of Massachusetts that if they happen to have one, they will swap for you. But basically, we're in a contingency where if it dies, we basically can't hold any games on there. And so in order to replace the controller, we have to replace the scoreboards. So I worked last summer with them last year trying to get the modern controller to work with it. It's just 2 generations old. It just doesn't work. So basically we're at the point where we need to upgrade. So, but this is what we've come up with as a plan to remedy our situation, to ensure that the facility is viable for hosting games on both rinks, for our tournaments and contingency games if we have to make up and have double headers. But and then it helps with our training, because when we have 2 different controllers, there's a lot of people that are intimidated by the old controller. It's not very intuitive, and so. But no, so I mean, this is what we came up with. We're basically asking for permission. We've been saving up for quite a few years, and so it's time that we were planning on making some serious investments in the facility, and so this is our chance of kicking things off. So, but if you have any questions on the project itself, I mean, it is kind of, we have the pictures that kind of show the rendering of what we're planning on doing. They will be color matched to the existing scoreboards in Toshiba, so for consistency. And basically, yeah, you can see how the Furniture Mart in the Shields Iceplex in Sioux Falls has basically the same system. And so with the limited height of the ceiling, we had cheaper options we could go with, but we felt that this configuration better fit the sight lines for our spectators. So we decided to spend a little extra money, make it right while we're at it. And so then we're also going to be the locker room clocks for when we did Twice the Ice in 13, we did put locker room clocks in those locker rooms over there so that the players could see the time of Toshiba on the other rink, since they are across the firewall. But in this case, we wanted to finish all of our locker rooms so that way we can switch between which rink is displayed. We have an adult tournament in spring where we have lots of teams coming in and going. Sometimes we get crossed on different rinks, so it's just a convenience thing. But we also wanted to put time of day clocks in there. Well, in Toshiba, we don't have any power sources, so we'd have to run power anyways for these, so we're just doing it all at one time. But then we also have, I think it is kind of a requirement to have like a digital clock in both rinks, but we didn't actually we have a big analog clock in Toshiba, but we don't have hardly anything in Innovative, so we're adding a 8-inch tall clock for that rink. And so basically, yeah, that's the gist of everything that we're doing. And so if you guys have any questions, obviously I'm not coming asking for money, so that's an easy thing. It's a good start, you know. I mean, like I said, we've been saving for quite a while, and it was time we start, knocking off some of our wish list items. So this is our first thing, and so, like I said, I'll probably be back in a few months. We have other things that we're looking at, but
Thanks for your
that's it.
presentation.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Next, we have additions and deletions. I would like to move number 8 up to number 5, and then move everything down so Eric can answer any questions if we want before we vote. I get someone to. Motion to approve the agenda, moving number 8 up to number 5 and shifting 5, 6, 7 down 1.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion carried. All right, approval of the arena facility improvements and scoreboard. Anyone have any questions? That, I guess, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll motion.
Got a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor of approving the arena facility improvements, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion carried. All right, on to approval of minutes.
Can't say she's not thorough. Any questions on the minutes?
Need a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes.
A
Second.
motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. That's approved. Financial reports. I had a question on the expenses for the campground. It's just more like on the budget things. When it says staff in there, does that include like your staff, or is that just,
That's our campground hosts.
okay, so it's not including any time you spend out there doing anything?
Nope.
Full-time employees are separate. Campground as a whole, revenue was not quite as high as last year. Or we're on expenses now, no, correct? Revenue and expense. Not quite as high as last year, but people were excited coming off of the pandemic last year, so there was an influx of people. This year started out a bit colder, so it was a little bit slower going into the summer, as it was at the outdoor pool. When it comes to expenses, we had a couple of things like the water heater and a pontoon boat, which just got purchased, so those were higher on that side of it.
What did the pontoon end up costing? We talked about that a while back.
Was it 31, 32, Steve?
Yeah, roughly in that area.
Okay.
Other than that, the park side of things, expenses were pretty much on track with the budget except for utilities, some unforeseen capital expenditures for repairs, and fuel.
When you look at next year, are you predicting the budget is going to be up 10%
In those areas,
for expenses period? I mean, yeah.
at least. when it comes to utilities. It may not have been budgeted that high, but I think on the administrative side, they're prepared to cover it, because not knowing where it's going to be when it comes to utilities and fuel.
What about like salary and insurance? Kind of used to-
Right now, they've budgeted for 6%, but they still have to approve at the council level. And that's for next year. The 2 years following that, we're open for negotiations again.
Curious about it when we're talking about setting rates.
Right.
Let's see what we're predicting.
Insurance, they've actually done quite well on that in terms of the claim levels, because they've given us a holiday on paying the last 4 months of this year based upon what they were able to collect from employees and the claims going against that. And they had a 3-month holiday the last 2 years, is my understanding, and this year was a 4-month holiday, so it's worked out well. It doesn't look like rates are going to go up again next year. In a previous job, we had that situation to where our rates didn't go up a few years in a row. In fact, our rates actually maybe got bumped down a little bit because we had so few claims. And then 1 year it jumped up between 16 and 20% all at once, and we got hit. So things can happen.
Is there any further questions on the bills or the budget?
I'll motion.
Got a motion to approve the bills and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Abstention?
Spain.
All right, department reports.
I can start. So with our programs, our men's flag football season wrapped up out at Cadwell last week. So that went really well. Co-ed volleyball starts this coming Sunday, so those are our adult programs that we have coming up. Our youth basketball will be ending this, I think we actually ended up this week. It was done. That was over four Mondays. We ended up with about 135 kids, which is really good. Especially there's 2 other basketball leagues that are kind of starting up this year. So we were happy to get 135 kids. We had 150 last year, so to only drop 15 is pretty good. So, and Todd and Jamie and I met this week, yesterday actually, about some new 1-day and 1-month kind of programs that we'd like to try and implement later this winter or spring, for sure if we could. And so we came up with some good ideas there. We just got to find the right groups or people to help with those programs. And some will be able to get it in the summer brochure. Some will just have to do some different advertising for. So excited about those things. At the rec center, still been really busy. We've lost a few members with the pool, but not many. We're still taking new memberships every day. So I sold 5 today myself. So that was really good. We're up to about 3,600 members. So that's more than we had before the pandemic. So that's really exciting to see. So as far as the pool goes right now, we have no idea yet. So I really don't have much to report on that. We hope to know here within a week what's going to go on, hopefully. We say that every week, so we'll see what happens. Last Saturday, we hosted a lift-a-thon. Ryan Hanks, he was a member as a kid. He wanted to put on a lift-a-thon in memory of Rob Marchand, the former director of the rec center way back when, and well, not too far back when, but it went really well. Had about 8 lifters, so the weight room was full, and raised, I'm not sure what the dollar figure is yet that we raised, but it could be close to $5,000, I think, and that's pretty good for just having 8 people. So we were excited about that, and we really appreciate the fact that he did that for Rob. So we're going to come up with something to put on there for him. So we got our new ellipticals and rowers and our new step in that we got for this year, and then and those are really nice, good upgrades. And then our new treadmills and some other new equipment will be coming. We'll order that stuff at the beginning of the year. So most of our cardio stuff will be upgraded, which is going to be really nice. Muller Lumber's been in a little bit with the old pool remodel. They've taken down the ceiling, and there's a few things getting done here and there, but they really won't start ramping that thing up until January, February comes around. So, and then want to say thank you to Dave Helloyd at the Days Inn. He graciously is letting us use their pool for our aquasize classes. The ladies haven't been able to be in there doing their classes for a few months, and he is letting us do that twice a week here. So we really appreciate his cooperation with that. And they started on Wednesday, so went really well. Went really well. So we're appreciative of that. So
The new instructor liked you too.
they like the new instructor as well. So I did get some compliments on that today. So. Anybody have any questions?
Kevin, the 3,600 members?
Yeah.
What is that all, is that memberships or is that?
That's members. That's members. We have, it's roughly around, and it just fluctuates from month to month, but we have, between 850 and 900 memberships,
Okay,
and then about 3,600 members, so,
thank you.
yep.
Okay. Well, we've been finished up winterizing all of our shelters, restrooms, irrigation systems, the campground. We got that 4-inch irrigation line repaired in Hitchcock Park. Removed a couple hazardous trees that were split, kind of just taking out, pulling flowers out of our flower beds in Hitchcock and Pat Young. Took out all our buoys out of the lake, moved the fishing docks, took the docks out at the west end, day camp and the campground. Working on mulch and leaves. We finished spraying the parks and areas around the lake for weeds. And just been cleaning up around the shop, and putting equipment away for the winter. I didn't have on here that the surfacing company came and got the rubber surfacing put down at the playground at the Kiwanis Woodlot about a week and a half ago, something like that. And then this week, we poured the sidewalk from the parking lot to the playground. And then today, we poured the pad for the swing bench and the one pad for the disc golf that we had to move. So the concrete work's done there, just a little bit of dirt work to do, and then maybe add a little sand into the sand side of the playground. We're hoping to get that wrapped up maybe early next week sometime, and then looking to seed it in the spring, all the dirt work. Any questions?
Have they accomplished some pickleball kitchen lines over at Hitchcock?
Yep.
Already got a compliment on that today. Thank you, email.
Yeah.
So you guys doing the work on the old road dock, pushing clay in and stuff? Is that part?
That's Public Works doing that.
Gravel over the top, or what was gonna happen?
It's kind of in the works yet. They're not sure what they're all going to do with that area.
Out of Cadwell, like Kevin said, they finished up, flag football was the last thing we had outside, so all of our outdoor activities there are done. We got the bathrooms blown out and the irrigation blown out, the batter's eye taken down and the batting cage taken down. We're gonna start, I don't have this on there, we're gonna change some fence at Drake. Right now, the first base bullpen is outside the fence, so we're going to take off a little bit of that fence and add fence to go around that bullpen, so it's enclosed in the field, so you can access it from staying on the field instead of going outside. We got locates coming for those. That should be done on Monday, so we'll probably start later that day or on Tuesday with that. We almost finished up spraying before the wind came. We probably got a day left of that. Putting away all the garbage cans, pulling all the bases, mulching and bagging leaves. We did one more mowing for all the fields. Cleaning up fence lines. Got all the sidewalks edged on the bike paths. in front of the ice arena, going through Cadwell, the parking lots, the curbing on the parking lots. And we put some fertilizer down, some liquid fertilizer. Hopefully I can get a little bit more. We'll check the weather on that next week. Out at soccer, DW had their last games on Saturday. They do not have any conference games, so they're done also. We did get the bathrooms in the Fisher Building blown out on Tuesday. Kind of same thing out there, mowing, mulching leaves. We'll take down all the nets, pull the goals back, put away all the garbage cans. We'll leave a couple out. Sometimes some people kind of use that as a dog park or walk through there. So we'll leave a few of those out, and then those nicer ones we bring into the ice arena. Got everything sprayed out there and got a little bit of fertilizer down. So soccer will be all wrapped up here probably by the middle of next week. Ice arena's very busy now. All the practices are up and going for hockey and figure skating. We did start open skate last Friday and bumper cars. We have yet to have a bumper car rider. Starting to get some rentals though. I got excuse me. One group this weekend is coming from Sioux Falls Friday night and 2 times on Saturday with a few kids. I got a group from Brandon Valley Hockey that's coming on Wednesdays for 4 times. And then the birthday party just got changed from this Saturday to next Saturday. So those are starting to pick up. Just daily cleaning there. It's pretty busy with all the kids. So cleaning every day in there. The first games were girls 14U tournament on October 18th through the 20th, but they added a boys varsity preseason game next Wednesday, so that'll be our first game. And just edging, dry shaving, we'll go through, and we're still going through and making sure the gates and the doors and door closers are all working. Any questions for me?
One more thing Steve had to contend with was vandalization at Kibbe Park as far as the restroom. Somebody got in there with spray paint and looked like much the same type of artwork that was done at Camp Arroyo the previous week or 2 weeks prior to that, when somebody sprayed the sign for going into the, should we say, tornado shelter, which is the large culvert underneath the road. But they both had cleaned up. Thankfully, the weather cooperated for that. I was out yesterday and walked with a couple of guys from Rose Engineering, as well as Joe and Terry from engineering here to lay out where the trail is going to go, the new concrete or paved trail going from Franks Bay over to the Lions Point Park. And that, I think, was flagged today so that they can work on developing that next year. DANR has evidently been doing some testing as well and reporting on their website as far as lake contaminants, and we're going to be working cooperatively with them. Other things that I've written in my report was the invoicing for the Dry Run Creek project. Now that that's wrapped up, the report was due as far as the invoicing for the $94,000. Lake readings, I take it, are wrapped up now. Steve, as far as Brad going out and taking those, or if he said one more last week?
We're still doing the phosphorus.
Okay.
We just didn't get one last week because we didn't have any test kits and they couldn't get us any test kits.
Okay.
But we did take one this week.
Because this week's still ended October on Monday, so.
Yep.
but-
And we kind of keep going until it gets too cold.
Okay. Rec Center pool, as Kevin mentioned, we're hearing things a couple times a week in terms of a little progress in that direction. There's still some I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed and legalities to deal with in terms of who's doing what and who's overseeing and taking what measurements, and hopefully we'll know for certain on a timeline, hopefully a week from Monday. Fee adjustments, that's something that's coming up here yet in the report tonight. The Blue Press Box Crow's Nest, as we heard at a council meeting a couple weeks back, that's something that the Mitchell Baseball has approached us on, and it's something that will be proceeding as far as next year, the structure out at the Cadwell. Cleanup's been continuing out at the the lake in terms of John McLeod and the Palace City Peddlers. Lawn bowling. I had another visit this week from a person who's instrumental in getting it going last time, is still wondering what we might be able to accomplish in terms of finding them a new site in town. I did not commit to anything, but we will be looking at options for them to see what we might be able to do. Cemetery and golf rates is something we're also discussing with that board. Other details that I'm also working on. Any questions?
So we'll move on to 2023 proposed fees.
So what you see highlighted are fees that are proposed to be changed next year. And I can go down those one by one if you wish. I don't know if it's easier for you to look at the television here or the screen up there. I'll try to enlarge the one that's up on the wall.
There's the group of them that's a large jump.
And the comment on those has more to do with how we recognize the revenue versus what the actual increase is. The actual fee that they were charged last year in some of those where you're seeing, for instance, I'll jump down to boys basketball, 3rd and 4th grade, where it shows $50. That one, that's a bad one. But one beneath that, where it shows 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, where it jumped from $10 to 42 and a quarter. They had actually been paying 40. The increase is 42 and a quarter. We just didn't recognize the $30 because that was paid out to the co-sponsor directly through another line item. And now we've been directed to run those funds through that and recognize the dollars in this account. So that's where you're seeing what looks like a dramatic increase on that column.
Basically, from 2 years ago, they're getting a $2.25.
Correct. Did I say that right, Kevin?
You did, yeah. They're basically the same fees with just a small increase, but just how we recognize it.
There are a couple that have gone up as much as $5 in that row. You look at one that's in the softball masters. There's a change in one of the baseball programs, so they'll be competing only in town or participating in town versus trying to do outside of town with the limited number of participants that we've been getting. Any questions on that page before I roll on? Nothing on that one from the rec center.
Why not? Why aren't we increasing the rec rates? I mean, it seems like we haven't done so for a while.
So, well, I can answer that. So we actually did increase them this year for 2022. They went up from what the business plan had said back when we opened up the pool. Like, just for example, the Family Pass, they set the high rate at $750, and we didn't charge that for the first 3 years. We did that starting, so all of those went up to the very top fees, and so we figured we shouldn't be raising them again in 2023, especially when the pool's been down and things like that. And our, come 2024, when the pool should be up and running, and then we'll have our new fitness room ready to go and stuff, that could be a time where we could see an increase.
And then that's my bad for it not showing up in this document where it was actually not the fee that was charged last year, so it's not showing what it really is.
What's that now?
Talked about, like the high end, you talked about a 750,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing a 706 as being the highest one. That one's actually 750?
So it's 706 plus tax.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so then it's 750. I think the previous year's rate for a family was 683 or something like that.
That's where it's not showing up right in here because it shows it several years that it's been since that one was increased. And 2 people as well. And senior as well. And senior couple as well.
What was the discount percent? Isn't that how we did it right away, is when the pool's open, we gave like a discount out there?
Yeah, I think it was around between 20 and 25% discount right when we opened. Yep. And then we didn't increase it. That was like 2019 when we started, and then 2020, we decided obviously not to do anything. And same with 21, and then, so we decided for 22 to put them up.
Thanks for
Yep.
refreshing my memory.
My apologies for the inaccuracies that are on here. I pulled from one of 3 documents, and I simply added another line, copying the previous year of no increase, and not realizing that it showed several years of no increases within this document. Kevin, off the top of your head, do I have the rates correct?
Having a little trouble seeing them, but it is kind of tiny. But yes, I believe they all are correct. I do have what our rates are right now, which is what they will be for 2023. So, so for an annual student, it would be $325 for the year. For an adult, would be $500, and this includes the tax. Would be $500 for the year. A couple's would be $625, and a family would be $750. And then the auto checking rates are $29.50 for a youth, $44 for an adult, $55 for a couple, $65 for a family. And then the senior rates are $375 for a year and $468 for a couple. So I don't know if that computes with your taxes in
The
there.
65 for a family plus tax looks a little bit confusing, because $63 plus tax wouldn't equate to 65.
I think there was some rounding in there
Okay.
for the auto checking ones. We either rounded up or down depending on where we were at.
To make it an even dollar amount?
Yep.
Gotcha. I think you explained that to me once before. And we're not skimping on the tax that we're charging, we're simply rounding down and absorbing the tax.
Correct. Or rounding up in some cases.
Correct.
Yep.
So from what I'm seeing, there's almost nothing in here that's jumping like, on any of these that's jumping
No.
20% or anything, like everything's jumping 5%, 10%.
Three to, yeah, really 3 to 5.
What's are these numbers correct on these youth programs with these $10?
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. That's what we recognized last year. Those are the co-sponsored programs that we do with like Mitchell basketball and DW track and things like
Okay.
that. We recognized out of the $40 fee, we recognized only $10, and the other group got 30. Now we're recognizing the entire fee.
Even
so that's
though
why
we're
it's
still
42.
paying out $30.
But we have a separate expense line item now that
Okay.
gets paid out of.
So basically, that's what it doesn't really change. I mean,
No.
It changes like $2.
Yeah, so like the wrestling deal looks, on here, it looks extremely,
Yeah, it's,
yeah.
so wrestling now is.
But those numbers, even they're highlighted, means they've increased still a little bit? Or is that just showing the change?
They've increased just a little bit along
Okay.
with the change, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And we still have Jeremy's changes at the bottom of this. There's a few blank pages in between that somehow got inserted. Unless people have more questions on the youth programs. I know those are important, as they all are.
Family memberships must be your the main, the majority of them are family memberships, or?
It's hard to say. I mean, that fluctuates a lot because most of our memberships are auto checking memberships, not the annual. And so it fluctuates between, some people will go from a couples to a family or, well, half of a family isn't coming, so they'll go down to a couples membership or maybe just a youth. So it fluctuates.
Okay.
So.
I guess final one question for Jeremy is, it looks like, when I look at the budgets, the concessions you've done pretty well at as far as making money. Is that something we want to expand and take more of, or,
As far as adding more concessions,
well, having the city run it instead of,
I could see maybe Drake doing that. But the stadium, I don't know, well, I guess technically we could get away from Exchange Club, but they take that over for the state amateur tournament. And if you take that out, it's pretty much just the Legion team and not too many people go to those. Or you could add soccer, which I don't think too many people go to those too.
I was wondering, I see the fees down there.
No other bigger tournaments besides the softball has most of the bigger tournaments that would bring more teams.
So have you, with you saying that, are you looking into that for Drake or not?
Personally, no. It's we do make money on the softball concessions. We do decently well. I don't know exactly where we were at after the cost of good and paying workers, but it takes a lot of time. Scheduling, ordering, stocking.
Maybe.
Yep. And I have kind of a concession manager, but pretty much they just take the starting money out and put it back, so me or a full-time doesn't have to be out there 7 at night till 10 in the morning. And then on the tournaments, I'll go out and do that here and there and in and out.
I was just, thanks, I was just asking because I think we got the fees on there for Drake.
For Drake.
Yeah, well, in the soccer field, I guess.
And we didn't do the stadium increase, just we want to get the others kind of up to there.
I put it in my notes, if you want to highlight the difference in the baseball versus soccer and football.
Yep, so where we talked about last time, upping the soccer and football fee. I did reach out to soccer. The soccer president said a $10 raise to $45 instead of $35 didn't seem like that much, but that is kind of a higher percentage. I didn't hear anything back from the football group after an email and text. I think, personally, I think a $50 fee instead of a $35 for those, just for the paint being used. And I have this year, the football team paid $802.
Is that for a total of 4 games?
That's for 4 games and their players. So for their games this year, they paid $140. And it costs just in paint between $104, well, for football, it's closer to $175 per game.
In
So we
paint?
would paint that 4 times for each of
That's
their
not counting
games.
staff, it's just paint.
That's just paint, yep. Soccer might be down to $145 to $175 per time we paint. They did have this year on their bill $1,050 for the fields.
So we thought it'd be appropriate to creep it up incrementally, knowing that this wasn't a steep jump going to 50, but also noting that we can't jump to 100 or some other number that it looks like it is on the youth programs, but it's really not. It wouldn't sit well. But at the same time, we can't absorb it.
Well, the one thing about it that I'm noticing right away is that, especially with the ice arena, when you look at what they paid 5 years ago versus what they're going to pay next year, and you look at that percentage, and then you look at what you're just talking about right there, they stayed flat, and now we're doing a jump. Whereas in the ice arena, what I noticed is it started at like 60 something, and it's now up to 80, because it jumped like $5 every single year, right? Well, part of what's happened with those guys is they just paid the same thing forever,
Yeah.
and now it's caught up, in my brain.
For the ice arena, the $63 in 19 and $66 in 2020, that included building time. So it's pretty much when you walk into practice.
Oh, got it.
And that's when the contract changed. So then when it goes to $75.77, that is just strictly ice time.
time.
Yep.
Okay, so maybe I'm wrong.
But that is,
I was just looking at the numbers.
it is a gradual increase where they have kind of, well, all the other groups, because it is, right now it's $35 per field for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more painting and time for football and soccer as it is for a softball game or one baseball game.
And then the proposed decrease for Mitchell Baseball Association games on Drake.
Yep, so when we added the turf, so now we do not have to chalk that field, we do not have to drag that field. There is not as much maintenance on the mound and plate. So I was looking at it as, that would be one that could be decreased because it is less expenses, less time, just because it is a turf field. And I threw out a number of $15 off of what the other fields would. So this year, instead of $35, it would be $20 for that field per day.
Did you have a lot of out-of-town teams on Drake?
Not really, because,
It wasn't ready early in the season.
yeah, I mean, it didn't really get going until, I think the grand opening was April 23rd, and they might have played a game or two before that. We did have one or two college teams come and play there this last spring. I had a high school team come and practice before their state tournament. And then you had mentioned maybe two high school teams coming and playing there as well.
Yeah, I've had inquiry whether or not they want to pay a fee to me and save mileage just across the state. We've talked about that too as an organization and with Jeremy about, I mean, it's a weather thing with colleges mainly. I mean, you're going to see a lot of use, probably, or one a use out of it at the college level, depending on weather. And it might not get used at all one year from anybody outside. It might want to get used every chance they can get one year. So,
Depends on how sloppy the spring is,
yeah.
how soon the frost goes out. And somebody's checkbook.
Yeah, college teams obviously have way more capability to spend that money, especially if they're supposed to travel to North Dakota and they don't have to spend that money on travel when they can just drive a little, half the distance or whatever and play. And But high school teams have a hard time, have a hard time making ends meet with that situation. I guess how desperate they are, but
Do you think that $100 is too much for high school for 1/7 inning?
no. I don't think so. Then the thing with high school, obviously Mitchell Baseball is using it in the spring heavily. The college is using it heavily. Colleges have a capability of playing in the morning, potentially, or during the day, where high school teams can't do that. So them high school teams being able to get on it would obviously mean that we would not need it, and college would not need it. So it's going to be harder for high school teams to get on there anyway, just from the usage standpoint, but I don't think so. I think there's other organizations and towns that are around that are above that, saying with their rental fee for their field as well. So if they want to pay it, they're going to pay it. If not, I mean, they're.
Yep.
What's the? I didn't know. I guess the difference before about the lights. So baseball lights out there, that's any field whatsoever, like for youth too. I don't even know if youth is using lights like they used to.
No.
Do they use do they use lights at Field of Dreams hardly at all anymore or not?
No.
But that price is the same no matter what. So if somebody's on Field of Dreams at night, they pay the same price for any baseball field? Is that what that?
No, I put A, B, and C as softball.
And that doesn't show up
Oh, okay.
on your document.
And
here.
Drake.
No, it says softball. So if those ones are under the softball umbrella, then they're, okay.
No, I put A, B, and C as softball. So baseball here is just strictly Drake in the stadium.
Okay. But they don't get utilized like they used to at night.
No.
With the increases in budgets, do these numbers work? Barely, maybe? I mean, obviously, there's budget increases that are pretty substantial.
Right, and this isn't going to come through and do great things for the budget. We just need to continue moving our revenue streams in the direction of increasing revenue rather than decreasing. If we doubled everything, we still wouldn't get there.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, you probably lose some people.
Exactly.
I did it out for soccer this year. They had 30 field days at $35, so that was $1,050. If that price was at $50, their total price would be $1,500, so it's a $450 increase.
For those guys, yeah. That's the biggest increases.
Or for football, 4 games at $35. This year, they paid $140 for their 4 games. If it was $50, they would pay $200 for their 4. So, I mean,
$60 more.
it does, when you look at $35 to $50, that seems like a big increase. But when you go by games, then when I give you the price of my paint,
We picked up a third of the cost of one painting
yep,
by increasing the fee by $15.
yep.
So you're
Does
planning,
you-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was just, is there a day, like the daily or tournament fee, I guess, is that on here, Jeremy?
Tournament fee is the same for fields per day. So for a low-ranked tournament, if they used one complex all day long, all it is $35 times 4.
Okay,
So it's fields per day.
so the increase is only based off of the per field
Yep.
rental
Yep.
times 4.
Yep, or if they use 3 fields, or if they use 8, it would still just be 35 per field per day.
How does that work with hockey? Does it work the same way with hockey? Like for tournament?
They pay per hour.
They're per hour.
Oh, they're per hour?
Yep.
Okay, so they're,
And that goes start of game time to end of game time now, since we changed that
okay,
contract. And then we do the resurface before and after. If they have a resurface in between games or in between periods, then that counts as part of their hours. So when I do hockey or figure skating, it is the start of game time until, if varsity plays, I count that as a 2-hour game. If Bantam plays, I count that as an hour-and-a-half game. If Squirts play, I count that as an hour and 15-minute game, if that would be the last game of the day. But they do really good since you go on the hourly rate, and or figure skating is kind of going on this too, but it's a little different where you don't have 2 games and then a 2-hour break and then 3 more games. They stack all their games in. So workers, lights, they can all be right during their game. And
I would assume it's a real bonus when they're both going at the same time. 'Cause then
yes,
you have One employee do full and double duty for however.
We move on to the campground. I was kind of wondering, I had 2 questions. One, what did you use as the basis for the pontoon rental rate?
Actually, that rate was set last year by the park board, and there was, with some internal discussion, we thought that a 4-hour minimum is going to be needed in terms of the turnover, the cleanup, the refueling, and just anything else that's needed to be done. We haven't even come up with a method yet in terms of who's going to be responsible. If it's on a Saturday, it could be doable with Steve's Saturday person. If it's on a Sunday, we've got campground hosts who are dealing with campground sites. So it could be challenging. We just got to look at a number of things in terms of going down to help them take it off the lift, to knowing when they're going to come back and put it on the lift again. Do they have to sit in the dock and wait for them? Do they give out their private cell phone number? There's a lot of details to discuss.
Well, that was, I guess, my question. So that's an hourly rate?
Correct.
Okay. So we're really, okay. And then,
But I think that the 4-hour minimum wasn't within that last year, so I should have highlighted that that's the change. The rate was already there. Sorry, I cut you off.
no, you're fine. I was thinking that that was a daily rate or half day or something. Just wanted to make sure I understood everything. Then my only other question in that section, I guess, is why aren't we increasing the rates on the shelters? Looks like we haven't done those for a long time.
We discussed at one point not renting the outdoor ones and renting only the indoor ones, and then slightly increasing the rate for the indoor ones. And personally, I think we have a hard time keeping up with the facilities in terms of keeping them clean to the expectations of what the customers are. And that might be the spotted flies, or it might be a stinky garbage can, or whatever it might be, but it's difficult to say that we can increase it and still make some money off it. I think we had a couple of people this past summer who were disappointed to the point where they may not return for another rental again. So we need to work on the other end of it before we can expect that we're going to make more money on it. That's my take.
would it, like, so if somebody rents that outdoor shelter, does somebody go there the day of to check on that stuff?
Yeah, when, on a Saturday, Sunday, my staff, seasonal staff, comes in the morning, checks them, but being an outdoor shelter, they're open to the public.
Yeah.
Somebody
it's
else
hard
could
to-
come, trash it within 10 minutes that they've been there to check it.
Yeah,
You know, it's open to the public.
that's hard to rent something like that when it's,
Yep.
People get to know the system too. They'll drive past and see, or they'll call the day before. If it's on a Friday, they want it on Saturday, they'll call on Friday. Hey, I'm thinking about renting the shelter. Is it available? Yes, it is. Click. And they never rented it because they already know it's available.
Yeah, so they just go out there. They
Yeah.
don't, yeah. It's hard, I mean, yeah. I don't know, your idea of not renting the outdoor and increasing the indoor where you can control the,
Even our indoor, we have some dated facilities where, as I mentioned, the spotted flies and just some other
Yeah.
maintenance issues that we've got to get a handle on before we can think we can do that. Because I did the calculations, and I said $15 that we'd have to increase and go to the range of 130 plus tax, because we're at 115 approximately with tax right now.
Honestly, it's still super cheap. I mean, you know, as a business, we rent them every year, and not enough people rent them, in my opinion. As long as you know what you're getting.
Right.
Like, I know what I'm getting. I know I'm getting a space outside at the lake. That's like a cabin.
Right.
That's what you're getting. You're not getting air conditioning. You're not getting.
Other people have other expectations.
Yeah,
They expect it to be
apparently.
like a hotel room.
yeah.
I think they're great. I think they're great. They
Yeah.
work great for what we've.
Exactly, you don't rent it, you have the doors open, that's why you rent it.
Right.
But people, yeah,
Thank you for realizing that. We
that's my point, like,
we have a broad spectrum of
Yeah.
people, and they aren't that busy to start with. in terms
Maybe
of
that's
our-
just an information thing we need to put on the page, just, hey, these are a little bit more rustic facilities, these are, maybe you guys can have some marking customers.
A couple this year, a couple.
the bike rental to me seems really low too.
It is, but how many did we rent this?
I don't know, that's the thing, I don't know how many.
Twice?
It's hard to know that they're there. I mean, they'd almost have to be sitting out on the end by, people don't know they exist, I don't think. I think that's the hardest thing.
And if there was more access right at,
The campground.
yeah,
And
mean,
the
if
biggest
that-
problem is that people don't want to use them at the lake.
So they got to ride into the lake.
If you rent a bike at the lake, it can only be used at the lake. You're not allowed to take it.
But our pathways don't connect anyway, so where would you go?
People want to take it, people want to rent them, go to Sioux Falls. They want to take them.
Oh.
Hills.
That's because they're so cheap.
$6, yeah, I know, $6, I'm taking it for the weekend.
Yeah, you go out there, you're going to pay $35 to $50 a day for a bike.
I know that's why, but that's what I was saying, if there was more connecting to the other end, or even there's no connecting to the start, like even around the corner, is there? But there was talk about that bridge being put in, right?
Yeah, the campground's got a trail that goes north to the spillway, right from. the
Yeah,
camp-
but I'm talking about to the other side by the electrical, by the northwestern. Weren't they talking about putting a bridge in there to connect?
It was
Did that
kind of
grant, did
a
that,
future.
yeah, that
plan.
was a grant, wasn't it, and they were putting sidewalk all the way down? I mean, that would make more sense to increase that rate, I guess, if they were able to access other.
Some of those trails are, nothing against them, I rode them myself recently, I love them, but they might be a little bit rustic for somebody who's renting a bike for the first time or on an occasional ride.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't know much about it, just seems really low for what some people charge nowadays.
It is.
And obviously, there's not access to a lot of,
If it was paved all the way around, we might be able to have legal
Yeah.
bikes.
yeah.
I know Itasca State Park gets a fleet of bikes and they sell them off every fall and people go up there to get a bargain on them, including e-bikes. We don't have the budget for that.
Well, riding around, you're seeing, there's sure a lot of people riding.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they, when they fly by, I think, man, they're either in condition, oh, there's that little battery motor.
We need a motion that,
Yeah. Need a motion to approve.
Could I just have clarification on the football and soccer and the however much dollar amount off for the Mitchell teams for Drake?
So, again, we proposed that $15 reduction for,
$15 for the Mitchell team
down to a $20 rate.
for this year, yep.
Yep. And
And if that, that would go up to 37, so that would be 22 next year, $15 off.
so $15 off, gotcha, so that would be 37 versus 35.
And then,
Did I get that right, or I put 22?
The 37 is a light, the 36 on the,
yeah, 36, sorry. Yep. So it'll be 21 for next year.
yeah.
I had written 22. No, I'm sorry, that's soccer lights. But I think I still have the same thing up there, because it went from $21 this year. No, I'm sorry, that's the athlete fee. Now it's hard for me to see it, Kevin. Oh, I can increase it, never mind. I could even get it bigger on the screen.
I can see it.
That's too big. Eliminated the column.
So what's your clarification, Jeremy?
If $15 off for Drake and $50 for football and soccer is what you would be going with?
Right, so we're at 21, which is where I'm at here with the cursor. And $50 on this football and soccer.
That's not 15 off.
I'm getting 36 above.
The 36 to 21 is, the 50,
He
the
added a new category. It used to be together.
sorry guys, over here on the side, Mitchell Baseball Association on Drake Turf.
But that would go for this year as well, because I'm waiting
You
to see
haven't
what you
billed
come
yet,
up with
saying.
to bill Mitchell Baseball for those games.
Gotcha, so this would say 21 here as well, because we had the turf throughout this season.
Yes.
So this year would be $20, and next year would be 21.
I'm not sure that you'll hear that on the notes, but
I guess my only concern is that it is on the football and soccer. It seems like we're still pretty cheap on, I'd like to get closer to the cost of painting.
So that's fine with me too.
So you're saying to raise the $50 up, or to include, like we talked about last time, about them asking for another paint and then we charge them more each time? Is that, because that's what we talked about last time?
we did, but if they charge, we charged them for the paint at $180 plus labor. I don't know how much it's going to get painted.
That's their call, though, at that point, isn't it?
Well, then it becomes a headache for the park staff, because if then it doesn't
It
get
fades.
painted and then it fades and they can't see it, then,
Yes.
Right, they'll ask for it to be painted every other time.
We're at about 2 weeks max, depending on, well, irrigation kind of washes the paint away more than rain. But if we get rain, or even if we don't and we're irrigating, we can't really go more than 2 weeks.
so we basically just need to raise the $50 up more, because if we say that we're going to charge them when they request painting, it's not going to get requested. So we just need to
Yeah.
raise the $50 up even more, because,
That'd be
It needs
okay.
to be painted.
it needs to be painted. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's got to be painted, otherwise.
Yeah,
then
it's
we're-
gotta be painted
then we're
for you
wasting
guys.
more time laying outfield.
Yeah,
Because we
yeah.
lost our lines.
Earlier you stated it costs $175 to paint for football and $145 to $175 for softball.
For
or soccer, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'd say we at least raise it up to half.
But this is per game, right?
Yep.
This is per
Per
field.
paint.
Field per day.
field per day.
And in the case of, if it's a youth game, they divide a full-size field up into 4 fields?
4 or 5 or,
What I'm saying is you don't need to recover it all in one game day,
no, and I don't,
or even half. either.
How many?
I don't really think we need to
Right, that's
recover.
You get out of a $180 paint?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
What's that?
How many $50 games do you get,
Days.
or days, or whatever, do you get
For
one?
soccer?
Yeah.
Well, their game days are only on Saturdays.
Do you get two
So there'll be-
Saturdays before?
There'll
the
be 2, and then we'll definitely have to paint that next week for the 3rd Saturday. Whereas football plays every other week here, so, well, it's kind of the same. We'd paint right before their game, then they have a game away.
So by going to 50, you are recovering half.
Not if it's 2 and they're,
Half for soccer, but
We're painting 3
third
fields
for
for
football.
soccer either per time. Well, actually, we're painting 5, they only play on 3, though. They have 2 practice fields for their competitive league that they do not have games. So they just get charged the player fee. But we still paint those.
I don't know, but raise it much more than that. 1 year's a lot.
I agree.
Probably just need to keep increasing it every year till we're there.
What I kind of noted earlier is incrementally it.
Or magically the price of paint goes down.
Yeah.
so if we aren't going to adjust any of the fees, then we just need a motion to approve the fees as presented, right? As proposed.
And the $20 this year for Mitchell Baseball Association, we're using rate.
Yes.
That's not listed on here.
Okay.
I'll motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
I'll say.
We have a second. So we have a motion to approve the proposed rates for 2023 in addition to the reduction for 2021 at Mitchell Drake for Mitchell Baseball. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Next item I have on the agenda is the meeting date. I have December 8th is the next date. Is that right? Double check that quick.
Should work for me.
So we got a no from Andy. Okay.
I should be good, yeah.
Okay.
We're still on the forecast.
All right. You'll be on? Oh, okay. All right, so December 8th at 6 p.m. Next meeting. Meeting's adjourned.